Hello everyone, welcome to Cyberscoop TV. Greg Otto, your managing editor here. We're coming to you from the 2017 Black Hat USA conference. And I'm talking with Robert Block, the Senior Vice President for Identity Strategy for SecureAuth. Robert, thanks for joining us today.
Greg, thanks for having us.
So, you and I were talking about adaptive authentication a little bit ago. Talk to me about how you're seeing organizations adapt to what they need to do to protect their authentication inside their organization.
Sure. We all know that organizations are being attacked more and more every day, right? I mean, you could just pick up the latest Verizon breach report and see that breaches are inevitable, right?
Right.
And 81% of those breaches are happening because of compromised credentials. So organizations are supposed to strengthen authentication, right? Put a second factor in front of authentication, make it better than username and password. The problem is it's very cumbersome to the end user. You get stepped up every time you try to authenticate. The end user experience becomes poor.
Right.
So they avoid doing it because they don't want to disenfranchise their employees as a consumer base. So they leave themselves at risk because two-factor is cumbersome. So adaptive authentication allows you to place a layer of authentication analysis in front of the decision to step up or not, allowing organizations to make a decision on what to do with you, how much they trust you based on what they've learned about you, should they step you up or allow you in.
So, do you see that catching fire and becoming a very big thing inside organizations? Because you were just talking about two-factor authentication, and while it is better than nothing, it has its risk. So something along the lines of, adaptive authentication or behavior analytics that form that second factor seem to be a good way to move if you're a security conscious organization.
Yeah, I mean, it allows security conscious organizations to also be end user conscious organizations. The problem today is funding is small, right? Resources are tight, and business moves at the speed of light, right? And so we don't want security to be looked at as laggard, cumbersome, long, intensive. So the idea of adaptive, right? So if you can look at the device they're coming from, the geolocation, geovelocity, if you're trying to look at known networks, if you're trying to do IP reputation analysis, if you can take all of those into consideration prior to the authentication, I can then decide as an organization by policy, should I ask you for a second factor of authentication, or should I allow you in, or even better, should I give you SSO because I've trusted everything you've done? That makes security more the speed of business. That makes security more business friendly while maintaining security.
So when it comes to that end user experience, I would imagine that you're going to have employees that grumble about when they need to do security things. How do you think the message needs to be shaped inside organizations where something like that, where it is an end user experience, where it might be different for the day-to-day operations and it might be different for the C-suite, it might be different for the board? How do you sort of drive that message overall while still having a granular, different message for different tiers of the organization?
So that's a great question. And here's what I think we struggle with as an industry. So passwords are terrible. They are like the internet's asbestos, right? I mean, nobody wants a house with asbestos in it right now. Nobody should want an internet that has to do with passwords as a form of authentication. Yet they've been around for so long, they're ingrained in our culture. It's hard to say, hey, you know what, let's get rid of passwords. Let's do a different factor of authentication at the front door. But that message resonates with CISOs because they're spending money in password administration, password management. The message resonates with end users because they hate password complexity. We did a study with Wakefield recently, about 30 days ago, that said, of the people who responded, 89% use the same password multiple times because they're tired of managing passwords, right? So if I can get that as a hacker, an attacker, if I can get that first credential, I now have not only gotten maybe your email system, but now I've gotten your finance system, your HR system, your benefits system, wherever else you use that same password, right? So we can tell the get rid of password message using adaptive authentication to the C-suite and to the end user with just varying degrees of difference, all at the same end state of just trying to get rid of what we think is the most critical attack vector, which is the credential.
Do you think that it's ever going to get to a point where it doesn't affect the end user experience? And what I mean by that is it just pulls away the risk from an end user and it just sort of automates itself. Do you see any possibility of that ever happening when it comes to authentication?
Think of how much you do on your device today. If you have an iPhone, I use Touch ID for 70% of the applications I log into. I don't even have a password anymore, right? I've gotten very used to just putting my thumb down and the integration between the hardware, Touch ID, and the application, accepting that as my factor of authentication, it's became extremely easy of use. I don't even think about authenticating when I'm moving from this device. Move me to my Surface, move me to my Mac, then all of a sudden it's username and password, it's this, it's that. So I'm hoping we all get to a point where we can remove the idea of what do I have to do from an end user perspective and still maintain security.
Great. Robert, thanks for your insight. Really appreciate you talking to us for a little bit.
Great, thank you.
For all of our videos, check out our YouTube channel, and for more on Black Hat and all things cybersecurity, check out cyberscoop.com. I'm Greg Otto. Thanks for watching.